Hey there, my name's Brent Wolf, and this is my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you haven't. Today I'm going to be talking about and reviewing Kate Nash's latest album, Yesterday Was Forever. But before we jump into that, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and comment down below, have you listened to this album yet? And if so, what do you think of it? What are your favorite songs? That being said, let's jump right into it. Yesterday Was Forever is Kate Nash's fourth studio album, and the first full-length album since her 2013 release, Girl Talk. Overall, I really enjoy this new album because it's sort of a mix of her traditional pop roots that we heard on her debut album, Made of Bricks, but it still incorporates that pop-punk sort of punk rock feel that we got on Girl Talk. The lead single from the album, Drink About You, is an adrenaline rush, fast-paced sort of pop song that also has a dark side to it because it's about the idea of someone that you used to be in love with and sort of just obsessing over that image of them. My favorite lyric from the song is, "It's only love, but I think I taste blood." And I really just like that lyric because it just shows the duality of that sort of like, oh, this is a love song, we're so in love, but then also like, the I think I taste blood is just like, whoa, like, where is that coming from? You know, it's just about that sort of flip-flopping between this, like, oh, we're so in love, and this, like, almost dangerous sort of obsession. Life in Pink is the second single off of the album, but it also is the starter of the album. And the first lyrics that we hear from the song are, "I think about death all of the time, do you think that's morbid?" Unlike Drink About You, Life in Pink isn't about anyone else at all, actually, and it's not about some lover or love story. It's actually an internal reflection that Kate Nash is having. The song and the music video just focuses on her sort of battle with mental health and just sort of addressing that and sort of coming to terms with it throughout the years. In the pre-chorus, Kate Nash asks questions like, "What's wrong with me? Am I a person yet?" And in the chorus, she exclaims that she wishes that she could love her brain. So it's interesting that sonically, the song is very pop and very upbeat, but once you get to the lyrics, you realize, oh, there's a much deeper meaning here. And it's interesting seeing lyrically the way that Kate Nash reflects on what she's going through. In multiple interviews and while promoting the album, Kate Nash did explain that the thought process behind writing these songs comes from a perspective of writing like it's a teenage diary. And given the fact that this album was completely crowdfunded by her fans, it's a really different perspective to go back to this sort of teenage vulnerability that a lot of us have had where you're just sort of writing all your thoughts out and just sort of emptying them onto pieces of paper and then taking that 10 years later as an adult like Kate Nash and just making them into songs that have that same sort of vulnerability and very honest message. Most of the songs on the album have her signature sort of upbeat early 2000s, late 90s sort of like a retro pop sound, but then they also incorporate just a little bit of pop punk in the choruses and especially in her vocals. However, there are two songs on here that are in a much different direction than what Kate Nash would normally go for. Those songs being Hate You and Karaoke Kiss. Both of them tend to sort of lean in a much more electronic direction than any of the other songs on the album. In my opinion, Hate You is definitely the most sort of radio-friendly album and maybe the most commercial in a sense, that it does sound a lot more like what's on trend in the top 40 radio right now. But what I like most about it is that it is so different than the rest of the album, and it is a lot different than what we've heard from Kate Nash before. The sort of sparse production that we hear in the verses, and especially in between verses, that then go into a much deeper electronic sound in the chorus, I think that sort of juxtaposition is really pleasing to the ear. Karaoke Kiss is another sort of electronic song, but it's different in the way that Hate You is very loud and out there. Karaoke Kiss is a lot more retro electro pop, and it's a lot more laid back. While I really do like these two songs for being so different from what's on the rest of the album, and especially with the rest of her discography, California Poppies is a song that really hones in on her sort of punk rock vibe. What I found really interesting about California Poppies upon first listen is that it really reminded me of the melody line that's in the Borns and Lana Del Rey collaboration, God Save Our Young Blood. But with that aside, I think California Poppies is really the only song on the album that I was, I guess, confused by, just because the chorus is just out of nowhere for me, but the rest of the album definitely holds up. Also, My Little Alien and another song on the album, Called Me, are from her 2017 EP, Agenda. So I think for having this 14-track album, I think having 2 of these songs from a previous work is totally great, and especially because Agenda was only 4 songs, and these 2 were my favorite from that EP, I'm really happy that they did find a home in Yesterday Was Forever. I think the most interesting song on the album is Musical Theater, and not really for reasons that you would expect, where Hate You is just very different and interesting because it's something that's never been done before, but Musical Theater is so stripped back and so vulnerable that it's actually really emotional. Similar to Life in Pink, Musical Theater is just about Kate Nash coming to terms with her own sort of mental illnesses or her own sort of quirks that she has and has had while growing up. And if anything, the song is a lot more like spoken word poetry rather than a traditional song. But I think that's what works best for it. It's just very honest and very vulnerable, and while her lyrics do have that quality in most of them, I've never heard anything like Musical Theater. So I think for me personally and how I've dealt with anxiety, this song did a really great job at explaining how Kate Nash was feeling, and in such a beautiful way. Other sort of deep cuts on the album, like Always Shining, Today, and Twist It Up, are also really good, but definitely don't stand out as much as the other tracks. Not that they're bad by any means, but they are on the latter half of the album, and since the first half is so good and just really energetic, they just sort of fall to the wayside between California Poppies and My Little Alien. The last track on the album, To the Music I Belong, is a really great ballad between Kate Nash and her love for music. And while it's not as energetic as the rest of the album, it's definitely a nice way to end Yesterday Was Forever, especially as a crowd-funded album. It's sort of like a nice little letter that she's sending off to her fans. Having said all that, let me give you my final overview of the entire album. While I might be biased because I am a huge Kate Nash fan and have been for years, I do really think that this album is spectacular. Because I am a huge fan though, if I were to separate myself from the love of Kate Nash and the love of her previous works, I don't necessarily know how cohesive the album would be to someone who has never heard her before. There isn't one sort of solidified sound or one solidified theme that is in Yesterday Was Forever, but I don't think there needs to be one. I think there is a time and a place for albums that have a sort of cohesion and have a sort of structure to them, but I think in the sense that the way that Kate Nash was making this album as a sort of teenage diary entry and just getting out her thoughts that she's had and the emotions that she's felt over the last 5 years since her last album, I think that's why this sort of disjointed sound and disjointed lyrics really works. I just think it's really cool in the way that Kate Nash embraced her creative freedom and her independence over the last few years and really took herself out of the music industry completely and said, I'm going to do what I want. Of course, these are completely my own opinions, and if you disagree with me, go ahead to disagree with me, but I love this album. As of now, my favorite songs from Yesterday Was Forever are Drink About You, Musical Theater, and Hate You. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment. What did you think of the album? What did you think of my opinions on this review? Let me know in the comments below. If you would like, you can check out my Twitter and Instagram at TheBrentWolf, or check out my blog and previous reviews that I've done at wanderingwolf.com. Until then, I will see you all next time.